All right, good afternoon. Just doing a recap of the day for my trading and just comment on what we saw in the market today. Pretty eventful day today. You saw in the overnight, sold off, kind of bounced a bit, then really sold off just ahead of the GDP print, which is right around here. I'll expand this. GDP print was right here. We sold off from there. Open was right around here. From there, though, we also had Chicago PMI. We had personal income and spending, PCE, price index. Even before GDP, we had ADP employment, let's see, that was right. That would have been right here. So ADP was employment was where we really started to actually break lower. But you can see big drop off that data. We opened right here, so small bounce to the open, but then it seemed like all this was in anticipation of more bad data. So this was Chicago PMI here at 745, right in this area. And then right after PCE, which came in, thought it came in a little lighter than expected. Let me double check that though. Let's see here. There's a lot of data, a lot of headlines, a lot going on today. Okay, I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter. I'm pretty sure I remember it coming in a little bit lighter. But either way, the point is that this move down, we're already down from in the overnight, but the GDP number took us down lower. This move from the open seemed to be in anticipation of the rest of that data, and just continuing the downward momentum from GDP. Anyway, but once that number was out, there wasn't really any more anything to sell. I don't know. It was like a sell the rumor, buy the news kind of thing. So the selling seemed to be in anticipation of that data. And once that data came out, there was no more reason to sell. And we were already down so much. That was a big down move from yesterday's close. That's like 140 points. And so like that was it. That was like the only reason, it seemed from everything that I could tell, the only reason we were down. I think the selling probably was as violent as it was, or as much as it was, because I bet there is a lot of longs in here that got complacent, looking for this gap to fill, this 5610 to fill. I've seen that happen so many times where it's like we linger just below some important gap that everybody's looking at, and everyone knows it's going to get filled. And so everyone is getting long, and they're holding long for sure, just thinking it's going to get filled, and they're not managing risk. They're not thinking about risk. They're just thinking this is a guaranteed, we're going to get filled. I know this because I've done this a million times. I've done it enough times to recognize the pattern. And so I think what happens when that trade gets crowded, there's too many people just long and expecting that area to finally get filled. I mean, look at this pattern, just higher, pullback, higher, pullback, higher, pullback, little consolidation, pullback, higher, you know. And so we're so close to that level. Everyone sees it. Everyone sees it. Everyone's thinking about it. You know, it was a crowded trade. And so this was like a liquidation. This was panic sell probably. You know, we broke through a bunch of levels that broke through how many dips? How many of these dips from the past few days? Let's see. Yeah, so like three of these major dips, broke through. So probably stopped out a lot of people, probably got a lot of people short just in time for this market to turn around. And, you know, it was like there was no, once again, besides the GDP and like just the econ data about inflation, et cetera, I don't think that's not driving this market as much as the tariff talk. So once that data was out, there was, it was a buy the news event, at which point we had a rally, we had big bounce here. And this was during Trump's cabinet meeting. Once that was over, it broke out higher. This right here, this candle, this was on a headline that saying that the White House has recently reached out to China trying to get a deal done. And then, I don't know. With this, I mean, it was a huge market on close order. I think it was like 2.7 billion to buy. That, and you tie in the fact that it was the last day of the month, and we had Microsoft and Meta earnings. It was just, once everyone has given up on that, this gap getting filled before the end of the month, that's when it's going to happen. So probably a bit of a squeeze in there. I don't know, but then, of course, at the very end of the day, very last few minutes of the month, we fill this gap, after this huge down day. We ended up. Crazy move. For my trading, so yesterday I requested 3,000 from Apex, and I thought I was going to request another 12,000, but it turned out I guess I had another day that I needed for another $50 day I needed. So I had to get that for these accounts, and so I went ahead and got it for these other two as well. So tonight I'll be requesting 14,400. A nice one. So that was, that definitely put some psychological pressure on me, knowing that I only had to make a little bit more. That definitely affected my trading for the day, because I saw, so on both NQ and ES, there was a gap. I'm just going to show ES. They're similar enough that I don't need to show both of them. But I saw at the open that we had this, the gap. I was thinking at that point that the move down was already extended, overplayed. So I, at the open, got long, knowing I just needed a little bit. That's like the worst. That's the worst. Like that. I don't know how many times I've just, that mentality has screwed me up. Just thinking, oh, you just need a little bit, and then I do something stupid or you get into dumb trades or bad trades, and they go against you immediately, and then it pisses you off because you're like, why did I do that? Why am I so stupid? Why, and you're like, why can't I get out of this? It definitely can cause a lot of negative emotions when you just need to make a little bit. But so I did. I got in here right around the open, seeing this stochastic bounce, seeing this, it looked like we were going to bounce. I was thinking at the time I was thinking we would pop to close this RTH gap, get to yesterday's RTH low, and then turn lower maybe. I wasn't considering, and I've forgotten about the Chicago PMI and the PCE data. But I even if I had, thought about that, I wouldn't have thought that it would do what it did, really. But yeah, so I was looking just to get this fill just for, $50. I think I had 2 micros of ES on, and then I ended up putting one on NASDAQ anyway. So it went against me significantly and quickly. I cut it. At some point I cut it. I did get short at some point. I made some back. I got long again, took heat on that. And then once it turned here, once that started to turn up, I started to see seemed like a little bit of a divergence in stochastics. You can see here, lower low, higher low in stochastics, lower low in price, higher low in stochastics. It crossed over right here. I got long again, and I essentially held it all the way through till in here. I think I got more in here. Yeah, I was scalping in and out like 1 to 2 contracts of micros of ES and NQ all through here, but essentially holding at least one, and got what I needed on those 8 accounts. Got those taken care of, so requesting those tonight, and then really took care of business for the rest of these 6. I just got, they just deducted was like 500 per account in these, so those are on a fresh cycle. These still trying to get to their first target, payout target. But yeah, so once I got long and I held on, because I then, I had just had the idea that it was, like I said, that we were down on not really a whole lot of stuff that's been particularly relevant to the market lately. And so the bounce, it just seemed like we were going to bounce. So would have been a much easier day had I not try to force this easy trade, from here, from the open to fill the RTH gap. If I hadn't been so needy for that $50, that would have made the day a lot easier. I don't know what I would have done necessarily, but it doesn't matter at this point because it worked out. I think I still would have been trying to get long, but maybe I would have had a better price, or maybe I would have had more patience on the initial entry. Anyway, so we had a good bounce there. Like I said, I was looking for that RTH gap to fill. The next one I was looking at, and this is another little point that you can use as a target, is it's spike high from that GDP. So spike high on ES was around 55, 56 something. Move this out of the way. And so that was, I got back in after this. Actually, I will say, yeah. So I was pretty much done. I didn't really do anything once I was up 470 or something on the other accounts. I was done and not doing anything for a while. And then this started to look like it was rolling over. It was a boredom trade. I sat around too long and was watching this and hearing Trump talk and everything, or hearing his cabinet talk. And it got me, I was bored. And so I tried to take a long right in here, and then it immediately went against me. And at this point, then I started to get, I got a little bit of tilt, just being pissed that I would even risk anything that I had done at that point on the day, especially after essentially being done and just knowing I was done. So I then, I took heat here. I got out, and then I think I got short, made some back, and then I had to get long. Yeah, I flip-flop a couple of times there. Finally figured it out though. Got it long. And yeah, I was looking for on NASDAQ right at 19,500 is that spike high from GDP. So that was like my main target there. I had to wait. I had like two micros on for ES. I was trying to get this one to fill at 55, 56 for that spike high for GDP. And it got it. I was just below that. My target was just below that, but it filled on that spike from that headline about the White House communicating with China. At that point, yeah, I was absolutely done and happy to be done because, you know, look, we faded off of that. That would have been tough to figure out because that looks like, you know, probably in this area I would have been thinking, oh, well, we might be going short, and then I probably would have gotten chopped up here. Maybe I would have turned back long. Probably would have turned back long, but I would have been pretty pissy at that point. Probably would have gotten chopped again. And you know, this spike, that would have been an easy one, but I was long gone for the day at that point. But anyway, it was a very interesting day. I was happy to get out of there with a nice day, and I'm happy to be requesting for those accounts that I thought I was going to request for yesterday. So that's just the recap. Yeah, obviously also, like I said, I mentioned that, yeah, Microsoft and Meta, I think they crushed their earnings as far as I could tell. So that's a massively bullish day in my opinion. I mean, like that was a significant pullback on the day, and the bears couldn't hold on to it, especially for month end. That gap lower is still much lower. I mean, I knew, or I didn't think that there was any chance of that getting filled today. You never know how far it's going to try to go though. But yeah, I mean, the complete reversal to get all the way back, I did not see that coming. I did not think that we'd get back to yesterday's point of control and close. So that's a huge rip at the very end of the day. To me, it's extremely bullish. I mean, huge tail, huge wick on that candle for the day. This is ES. We'll see what it can do here, but this is the interesting time too. I mean, as bullish as all that looks, anything can change, anything can happen. We've got these gaps. This was the huge gap that everyone was looking at. That's filled. I don't know. I don't know if I can speculate much more on what I think we'll see. I think the bullish case is pretty well established. What that looks like for the next couple months, you know, with when the tariff stuff, if the tariff stuff really starts to get resolved, I mean, it's game over for bears. I mean, it already kind of has been, or I've said that quite a bit based on just the fact that Trump is, you know, pivoted to a more lenient rhetoric about it, which is certainly a result of everything breaking down in the market. It's hard to imagine us going backwards at this point. I'm sure there'll be some headlines, some things that'll, you know, maybe take us lower for, you know, to scare, but it does feel like it's just higher. It does feel higher, but anything can happen, and I'm gonna try to continue to embrace that thought that, you know, it could go either way, and just try to be nimble and try to stay small. Just keep stacking some wins. So, I think that's all I have to say at this point. Like I said, good day. And I will be back tomorrow.